of engagement.
What are the rules?
The rules are
that
there is a prioritization.
If one of the questions we ask
in the Boma Yangu is, are you a first-time homeowner?
If you don't have a home,
and Hussein here has a home,
going for the same unit, we will prioritize you. Who doesn't have a home.
We even go further
and say, how do we incentivize
young people to
own a home?
We also say, if you have disability or able-bodied,
you tell us, because that's one of the questions that we ask.
Prioritize you.
We prioritize
so that you choose first of all,
on the ground floor.
All that information is
available on Boma Yangu.
The second question from Moses
is a very good question
about the policies
on the issue of
owner-occupier.
I can tell you, when you sign,
those people that are living in Pakro,
they signed a contract
that says, I will live
on that house.
Okay?
Tell me, how do you police enterprise? How do you police somebody who has been offered? Because this is actually what is happening in
that 3-bedroom, why they're paying
19,000 to us.
They're getting rent of 55,000.
If we stop and if we try to force people now to do that, we will have lost. First of all, let me help you get a home.
Okay. The only thing I can tell you,
you cannot buy policy.
You cannot buy two.
And the other thing is, you can't sell that unit until 7 years. Because that unit is so subsidized. If I allowed you to sell, what are you going to sell? What are you going to do today?
You buy 3 million,
you sell it for 7.6. Then you buy another two.
So we have those
under the housing fund.
Moses.
If you're retiring, if you read the regulation,
what is in the finance bill?
You get back your money at the earlier of retiring, death, or 7 years. So whichever comes first, you're going to get back your money.
So if you retire in 2 years,
you get back your money, whatever you saved,
because it is your money.
Regina. What happens to those who are already onboarded? We have transitioned from telecom platform to e-citizen, and we transitioned everyone. So your money is still there. In fact, as a matter of fact,
those people that have saved,
have 1.8 billion of their money. And when you go to *832# hash, you can be able to find out there is a place where you say, what is my balance? So your money is still there. What incentives to the informal sector get additional incentives. So with the Boma Yangu, with the housing fund, we will finance Kenyans at 5%, as Hussein said. We will finance Kenyans up to 30 years. Some of you are saying 30 years that you're going to get stuck. If you pay it in 5 years, there's no penalty. But we will enable you to pay based on the size of your pocket. For the informal settlements, first of all, the interest rate is 3%. And those numbers are not thumbs up. We have worked backwards. How can I be able to pay 5,000
So we start from the answer,
and then you go back to the unknown, and we work it out.
Okay?
The people who work in the informal sector are allowed to save through the voluntary scheme. The housing fund has two schemes. It has the mandatory, and it has the voluntary. But the one thing that I want, and it's a good question, is that you will never own a home unless you have registered on Boma Yangu, and you are contributing, whether mandatory or voluntary. So that's very important. Those are some of the rules, because you are contributing for people who are not contributing, and then they get a house, and then they get a house. Whatever the amount is. And by the way, they are contributing more than us. I have of Matatu stage workers. Those are touts. And that have come together and given me an MOU, and they say, should these houses start construction all over the country, we are going to be saving 300 shillings a day. I have it on me. Because they don't have another chance of getting a home elsewhere.
Vincent.
Have I finished Regina's question?
Okay.
The cost of construction. First of all, the most painful cost in construction is VAT. Because VAT is real for our industry, and I'm not going to get technical. And I'm not going to get technical. We have written off VAT. That affordable house in Park Road. There was no VAT on the cement. No VAT on the steel. And that's how we were able to drive it. There are other incentives. Like if you import any material, when you use Kenya Railways, you don't pay the railway development different from other people carrying materials and so on and so forth. Vincent Afande. Good question. And you will introduce a very important topic about the economics. Okay. We all know what is happening. Global crisis. Incomes have shrunk. There is real pain. And sometimes, it looks like we're insensitive to the people. But good people. How do you get out of a global economic crisis? One of the ways to do it is to invest in yourself. You must create consumptive demand. All right? Consumptive demand. And that's why we are saying, if we build these 200,000 homes, how many new jobs are we going to the economy? That's number one. Can you imagine how many doors are we going to construct? Those doors will be constructed by Kenya because one of the policies, and someone is asking about the policy. We will not buy doors from China. We will not import doors from India or windows. There are 69 items that will be produced. And actually, if you are in Mwingi, they will have to be produced in Mwingi because we want to create local jobs, not jobs in Nairobi. Okay? And now think about housing as a long supply chain. So it is actually good economics. And what we have said, what is it that we can be able to contribute together so that we create this stimulus into the economy, and incomes are going to rise and more jobs are going to be created, and we attract foreigners to come and bring in the dollars that we need. You know, we have a shortage of dollars. But I have got over 200 investors, and all they are saying is, if you give me an off-take plan, because I don't believe in your story. Your story is a very emotional story about Wanjiko owning a home, about the Juakali artisan owning a home, a shoe shiner owning a home. But hey, my money is not emotional. All right? So me, I just want to know that I'll get paid. And how do you guarantee that they will get paid? You can tell them, if you tell them that you're going to get paid, it becomes a government guarantee, which is as good as debt. And you know what is going on, the conversation we're having about debt in our country. So we are saying these cash flows that we have pulled together, and they are driven by a law, but are not bankrupting people, because we are saying it is maximum of 2,500. Average Kenyan will pay 1,000. You tell me today, how many houses can you be able to get for 1,000 shillings? So this 1,000 shillings, you're taking it out of this pocket, and you're putting it into this pocket. You're not 1,000 shillings richer or poorer. The only difference is that in this pocket, you can only earn 7% if you put it in or whatever. In this pocket, you can walk away with a house, whereby, just like the gentleman from KBC has said, that the person now is getting rent at 55,000 and you're paying 19. The hustler now can be able to do that. Okay. So, and it's a very good question, and I'm sure a question that we need to talk about. Building materials. You know, we are providing building materials, especially in the rural areas. So if you want to go build your own home in the rural areas, come to us. We have housing directories in every county. We'll give you even plans to go build your own home. But even this housing fund, we will finance you still. So providing building materials, all it helps us to do, for example, in Kisii, because they make those blocks, but they use firewood to burn those bricks. We have given them machines called hydroform machines, interlocking soil block machines, so that now they press those machines, but we have still not answered the question, how will they finance? So the housing fund addresses both. Flora, TV 47. I think I've answered the question about the portal. Okay, so there is a portal. The portal, Bomayangu, please, and it is still under construction. So there are some places you will go and you say it is coming up. Even diaspora. Those of us who will watch this from diaspora, there is a diaspora tab for you. It is a marketplace for everybody. So we have aggregated buyers. I have over 350 Kenyans today that have registered. And since we started this conversation, we are getting almost 5,000 every other day registering. Number two, if you're a developer, you also go on Boma Yangu. You list your project so that you don't have to leave there and come to the office and ask, Hinga, nyumba ziko wapi? You just go click and you see where the developments are coming up. And then the choice is yours. Where do you want that home? And you tell us. And I think the question about the contributors at the bottom, in terms of broadening. Now, let me tell you what is going to happen. You see, why I am struggling, or why we are struggling with this housing fund, because of three things. One, trust deficit. And I know that question is coming up. It's about trust deficit. So this program, we must put in enough safeguards so that we can be able to win the trust. Number two is believability. And that's why we had to do the pilot, because instead of Hinga talking to you, I want you to go and interview the shoe shiner. I have 8 touts who are homeowners in Park Road. Go interview them. Why? Because now it starts to become real. It's not that Hinga is piki ponki anasema huyu ni wangu ama Hinga amepata pesa kidogo hapa hivi anasema. I have no powers to allocate those houses. So it is important that for the people who are in the informal, the minute they see that there is trust and they need the homes even more, because they're the ones who are in the slums, they're the ones who are in the tenements, they will actually out-contribute us for 2 reasons. A, there are many, because there are about 18 million of them, versus 3. Those who are in the formal. 2, they want to save as much like Kigadi and his team from the Matatu. They're saving 300 shillings a day. You're saying you save 1,000. And I think that is how we're going to broaden this thing. And you will see we will be able to transform this country because we came collectively together. You people belong to us. Why do we come together? It's because there is a power of pooling money. Thank you.
Yeah, my name is Chemutai going from Citizen TV, and I have maybe about 3 questions. One would be, the social housing program has been used by many developed nations, and for instance, the United States, in New York, Harlem, and Brooklyn, there was construction of various, housing units. But the government also went in to have a subsidized rate that was available for rentals. Has the government considered that as opposed to the forceful, quote-unquote, deduction for you to be a homeowner? There was about, correct me if I'm wrong, about 2 billion shillings that was collected in the previous, from 2018 when there was the 1.5% deduction, but not mandatory, I'm certain. But where did that money go to? How many units were constructed out of that money? And for this administration and what has so far been launched, how many of those units are, what is the progress? And if somebody is to opt in, if the finance bill sails through and one is opting in for that, how soon can one get that? Because the question that many are raising is, if it is housing units for those that are perceived to be living in indecent areas or informal settlements, if my salary is being deducted, am I top on the list in getting that house?
Thank you. My name is Brian Mushiri from NTV. Mine is maybe just to understand the financial accounting system, because late last year, and my senior Chemutai actually reported on it, and we also reported on it, that there was a challenge with the recent project that has just been launched and groundbreaking began in South Sea. Lap Fund is largely involved in that, and we had 2 companies, the first one being CRJEA, that was awarded the tender to actually start the construction of that housing project, and MS Milcon Limited, that is also part and was actually passed by the tender committee in that particular project. And the latter actually came in with 14 billion shillings, and the one that was given the tender went in at 16 billion shillings. An internal whistleblower came in. We had the Ethics and EACC rather actually acknowledge this letter by this internal whistleblower. So from where you sit, are you aware of this situation? And as a Kenyan whose money is quote unquote being played around with, what is my security when it comes to this? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Good afternoon. Jimmy Mbogo from KTN. I have a couple of questions. Bona PS, when we were having this conversation around 4 years ago on the issue of 1.5 levy, one of the things that you mentioned is that the alternative would have been going out to the market and getting about 1.8 trillion in, as we speak now. If we were to go back to the market, how much would it have cost to achieve these projects? Number two, there's a time I remember, again, at one of the functions, you spoke about regulating rental charges in the country to be able to sort of remove that pressure in terms of get a number of people who can pay a little more away from the slums. How far are you with us? Have you gone with that? Now, the next question is on the issue of the 7 years. Now, what happens after 7 years? I've been contributing for 7 years. I want to get my money out. What happens after that? Do I still get to contribute afresh? And if it's, again, we've seen this trend where you have been contributing, for instance, NSSF, but then when you go to get to collect your money, it becomes another nightmare because of the bureaucracy in government. And also the status of the housing market. A lot of developers are saying, just make the market, make it a bit sustainable for us. Make sure that you zero rate, let's say, some of these materials, and we'll be able to put out those affordable housing. So what's happening around that? Yeah, one more.
My name is Elvis Omondi from Biblia Usema Broadcasting. And
From?
Biblia Usema Broadcasting.
Biblia.
Yes. I have two questions. One pertaining to the closest we have to affordable housing units is high-rise near Kibra. And when you look at high-rise, the most prospering business, apart from food, is water and honeysuckers. This is because the infrastructure there was not considered. And most of the people who would want to buy these affordable housing units are questioning, will I buy this unit and live in a place where I still buy water to flush my toilet? Or where I still have to pay service charge to get my toilet, honeysuckers to get out there? And my second question is on the 7 years. You've explained a lot the nitty-gritty of this project, but I still don't understand. What is the science behind 7 years? Why not 8? Why not 3? What is the science behind this 7 years?
Let's give another person a chance behind there, then we answer those.
Good afternoon. My name is Fred Muli, Sango FM, Kamba Radio Station. I have only one question.
Sorry, Muli from?
Sango FM. Yes.
Sango.
With the kind of resistance the project is getting from the citizens and also from the other side of political view, does the government have any plans to sensitize on the same project?
Thank you very much. Very good questions. Chumtai, social housing, New York, subsidized for rental. Our plan, 91% of Kenyans in Nairobi, they rent today. 91%. That's our statistic in 2017. So I'm sure it's probably more. Our plan is to subsidize the rent, but through a rent-to-own structure. Okay? That is our plan. And that is why we are saying you will get a home for 5,000 shillings. You will get a home for 10,000 shillings under the affordable housing program at 15,000 shillings. If you're in the social housing, you will pay 2,500 for one-roomed house. You will pay 4,500 for a two-roomed house, and you will pay 6,500 for a three-roomed house. But that house, you will rent and you will own. The question that we get is, why own? And we ask the question, do Kenyans rent because they like to rent, or they rent because they cannot afford to own? And as I said, it's a dialogue, and I'm sure you have the answer. 2 billion. First of all, the 1.5 we never collected. So that's the first fact. The 2 billion, that was saved is slightly less. That's what I talked about, the 1.8 billion. Is still in our bank account at KCB. It is still available. And the people who saved there, because the criteria for allocation, because I'm surprised nobody has asked, it is what we call fast past the gate. What is fast past the gate? One, you must have raised 10% deposit for that unit. Number two, you must go on to Boma Yangu and you must fill in. There's certain information that we need. And luckily with the e-citizen, I don't need to ask for your marriage certificate. I don't need to ask for your birth certificate, because all those things we now are going to integrate with them. So you just register and then you start saving. *823#. That is the beginning of that journey. So those who have that 2 billion, and it is their money, that is voluntary. Okay? Majority of them have said, I don't want to take that money out, because now that I see Starehe is coming up, I want to be fast past the gate. Okay? What has been launched? We can provide you through, I'm sure through your WhatsApp group, we can be able to provide you with an update. But as Hussein said, it's 36 years. 36,000. That is under construction, because please, let's understand, construction takes time. So even when we say 200,000, we are saying we will start 200,000 projects, units. Okay? So by the time you start saying you're finishing, maybe give us a headroom of about 2-3 years. So now the first 200 are coming up, and then thereafter you can say there is consistent coming in. But when you're starting from a base of 0, you have to build them. And because a lot of people, the same friends of ours who you invite there, they like to take cheap shots. That akina Hinga watajenga nyumba in one day. What is it? How soon can I get that? The list. Huh? Yes. There is construction that is already going on. So already, please, and we are telling you, just start the journey today. Go and *832#, start saving your money, and as soon as those units are complete, and continue saving. And remember, the 1,000 is the minimum, or the 2,500, that's the minimum. The more you save, the more it means when the deposit is required, you will have it. So we're just saying, put the kidogo ile amount, which is our off-take plan, but please save as much as possible. Imagine Mushiri, NTV. I have no clue about what you've spoken about. That is a private project. I do not have any information. I've heard from you for the first time. So allow me not to comment on something that I have no idea about. Thank you. Jim Bogo. I know you interviewed me once. I think you were at K24 then. Good. KICC. In the Jubilee government, our plan was 500,000 homes at an average of about 2 million plus. It was coming to that 1.4 trillion shillings. Now, with Kenya Kwanza, our plan is 1 million units in the next 5 years. So just double that and add a little bit of a factor, because when we were doing that, steel was still very low. Now it has gone up. But we're doing it via PPP. So we're not borrowing the money. We're not borrowing the money. We are doing what you do every other place. We changa, and we build these houses, and we get other people to bring their money to build. Please don't forget about that, because this will attract foreign money to come into this country. And please, you don't need to be an economist to understand this. This is common sense economics. Hii ingine ni story too. Regulating rental charges. There is a landlord and tenants bill that is before Parliament. It was sent back out. It addresses some of these issues about the regulation of tenants. So it is still a bill, and we hope, because now there is goodwill, it's one of the bills that we can be able to get completed. 7 years, very good question. What happens? You see, if you have not retired, 7 years is an event where you can opt to take out your money. You can opt to transfer that money to your pension.
You can opt to transfer that money to your kijana or your msichana. You can even bequeath it to your house help because amekusaidia kulea watoto, unasema wacha wewe, mimi niko na nyumba, wacha nikupatie. It is absolutely your money. But if you have not yet retired, you continue. But you have an exit at that point. Okay? So you contribute afresh. Collection is an issue. Okay, I think you asked about when it comes to. Yes. You collect, okay, yes, collection of your money, so you want to exit. So first of all, let's put some context into place. Number one, it is our desire that you get a unit as opposed to getting that money back. Why? Because even if you own a home today, as I said, and you get a unit that is 60% discounted, it is good investment decision. So, but if you have to take it out, let me put context to you. 2,500 a month in 7 years is only 210,000. That's what I need to pay you in 7 years. 210,000. So it's not millions that you'll have saved. It's 210. For average Kenyan who is going to be contributing 1,000 shillings and below, that is 84,000. Okay? So, and that's why we are saying let's put context. You see, 210 that you want to take out in that place versus getting a unit that is 60% subsidized. The idea is to incentivize you to get it. But however, if you want to get it out, you will get out your portion. The employer portion stays in. Because the employer portion is the one that protects the capital of the fund. So that if now there are obligations for the fund, we are supposed to keep those that kind of money. But after 14 years, you can now exit your employer portion as well, or if you die. So, but if you die or retire, you get both. The employer portion and your portion. But if you want to exit, at the very least, I give you back what you've saved. Status, zero rate. What is this? What you asked about zero rate? Yeah, so we have zero-rated the VAT. That's the most expensive issue that we have because VAT in our sector is a real cost. And as I said, our railway development levy, income, what do you call this? Import declaration, whatever, is also lower. And also, when for the developer, and maybe some of you are developers, if you develop 100 units and below, you pay tax at 15% as opposed to 30%. Elvis. So closest to AHP is high rise. That's what you're saying. But I say no. The closest to AHP is Park Road. Please. I have just given you the details about Park Road. Hapo high rise, hawana fiber huko ndani. Huko Park Road, huyo shusha anaishi mahali kuna park. Kuna CCTV. Akona maji ndani ya nyumba. They have boreholes. Plus, they have electricity, they have emergency generator. My friend, you don't associate those things, amenities, with those kind of houses. So please, let's use the right base to compare. And you put a very good point, which I forgot to say. You will pay service charge. Let me tell you, service charge is important because that is your house. You see, the conversation is owners versus renting. That house, you need to take care of it. So service, you will form your own body corporate. Iyo, Park Road body corporate, ile ingine, Starehe body corporate. Nyinyi wenyewe, you will have to pay service charge so that you are able to maintain those lifts. Otherwise, my friend, utaenda 18 floors. Muli, spot on. The resistance. And let me tell you, and that is why I am so happy that we're having this conversation with yourselves. And after this, we are hitting the ground so hard because we believe. And you can see this is a very difficult job, by the way, let me tell you. It's very difficult. To get this thing off the ground is very difficult. You must be a believer in this thing. And our president is a believer in this. That's why his DNA is housing. It's because he knows what we need to do. But let me tell you, we have a good product. What I have shown you here in this detail, this is a good product where you are told instead of paying 7.6, pay 3. Instead of paying 15% interest, pay 5. Instead of paying 10 years and you pay 111,000, pay 19,000. It is a good plan. Our biggest challenge, and this is where, because you are Kenyans too, and I know majority of you here, and I wish that you in the fourth estate could be the first people that buy these houses, because you become better evangelists on our behalf, and you're Kenyans too. So let me tell you what we need to do is, yes, please, let's disagree where we have to disagree, but let's not beat this thing so hard that you want to have it fail. Because if it fails, we have not sorted out the economics of the country. We have not sorted out the housing issue. We have not sorted out the urbanization issue. So this is a conversation that we should be able to look at each other in the eyes and say, watu wanatuambia ni shilingi 1,000. Hiyo mimi nimekubali. Wacha niweke hiyo 1,000 if you're going to guarantee me we're going to stop these slums from coming up. If I'm going to have a decent home. So our biggest challenge as government, wacha niwaambie secret, is that there's so many good things that we do. We have no good capacity to be able to tell the public about it. And so we get defined by the bad ones. Ile sukari sijui ilikuwa sijui ilifanya nini. Sasa watu wengi wanafikiria mambo ya sukari ambayo sijui ilikuwa ime nini. That's what you think. Government is synonymous to scandals. But there's so many good things that we are doing. And that's why, please, if you believe the plan is good, we want you to also become our ambassadors. We are going to do serious public participation everywhere in this country, in every channel, so that the resistance can go down. After that interview on Spice FM, I can tell you, a lot of people said, I understand. After Hussein said it's 2,500, pressure ikakuja chini. When the president explained to the Kenya Kwanza MPs yesterday, it is only 2,500 maximum. Pressure ikaisha kwa sababu walikuwa nadhani watakato 300,000. So let's communicate and assist us and accuracy. Thank you.
I think I'll just take 2 more questions from those who haven't spoken. So the 2 gentlemen there.
And we are coming to mkono kitambo. Na hapa huyu wacha so far.
My name is Ezra, Ngemi FM, KBC. I want to get the simple mathematics about the Housing Development Fund. If you are planning to build 200,000 houses per year, each house may require 2.5 million. If you translate this, will be less than 500 billion per year. How are you able to raise the surplus amount? Then there's the issue of the 7-year. When you want to opt out from the Housing Development Fund, in each fund there must be some interest. The interest rate is very silent. I've not heard you say I'll get my 10% alone. Can you please clarify about that? Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm Lawrence Nyando from Radio Omini. My question I'll direct you to Bwana Hussein, not the PS. As we can see, the government is really trying to work out and help Kenyans. But why should you prioritize on the issue of housing now while you have other issues that are really affecting Kenyans? Let's talk about health issue. We have many youths who are really unemployed in the country, and also the taxation is really high. Why do you want to provide houses to the people who are unemployed and people who have health issues, and also the health sector in the country is really not okay?
Thank you. My name is Festus Amimo from Radio Mayenga KBC.
From?
Radio Mayenga KBC.
Okay.
I have 3 questions. 1, what factors did the government consider to arrive at 3%? And I would treat this more or less like state deductions. We have institutions or companies or government departments that do not remit state deductions in time. So you target to raise 1 billion every month, and there are so many institutions that may not comply with this. What will the government do in that? Second question is on how will the titling challenges at the Ministry of Land be addressed to ensure speedy sectional titling of the paid units in this program? And the final question, what coordination opportunities exist between State Department of Housing and Urban Development and National Housing Corporation in terms of decision-making and management of the housing fund and its implementation. Thank you.
My name is Graham Kajilo from the Standard.
Sorry,
Graham Kajilo from the Standard. I would like to understand what effect will this fund have in the expansion of the mortgage market, and particularly also to do with the role of Kenya Mortgage Finance Company. Understanding that this money is being collected by the government, and the government is one of the shareholders for Kenya Mortgage Finance Company, as well as what role do you expect financial institution in the country to play?
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, where did we start, Ezra? Okay, the mathematics. I'm a mathematics. Which one? Okay, both. Now, so I've just said, Ezra, that when you start the construction, the houses that we are starting in Starehe will only be complete. The 6,700 will only be complete in 3 to 4 years' time. Okay? So the obligation to pay, remember, the offtake model is the investor brings in their money, they build with their own money, then they give us keys, we pay them. And then through Bomayangu, Kenyans are electing and they're saving money. Okay? So that's number one. So in 3 years' time, this fund will have collected a lot of money. Okay? This fund will have collected a lot of money. But remember, even for where we exit the developer, people start paying. They're not no longer paying 1,000. Remember, the 1,000 is the offtake money, isn't it? Now you start to pay for your tenant purchase. So now you've started to pay 5,000. You started to pay 10,000. You've started to pay 15,000. That's one way. Ultimately, what we will do, and I don't want to get technical, and I really fear this, what we shall do, we are using the capital markets to recycle our money through REITs. So if you need more details, come nikuone huko kwa sababu sitaki kuchanganisha watu. But hiyo inaweza kuwa ngumu kidogo, alafu nimeona tumeenda vizuri, alafu sasa nasema hiyo sasa jamaa amechoma. Interest rate is silent. And the reason why interest rate is silent is because the minute you give guaranteed interest rate, I don't know where you get the guaranteed interest rate, okay? You create an obligation which is almost like a debt, okay? So even when you join these money markets, where you're for unit trusts, they don't give you a guaranteed return, okay? But they keep on reporting and telling you this is how our fund is performing and so on and so forth. I think every month they show you which fund is doing well or not doing well, all right? Okay? That is the similar principle. What we can talk about is what is our target interest rate, and we can give you that. Our target interest rate is 7%. Okay? That is our target interest rate. And we can achieve it because this money, 9 billion a month, that I only need to pay in 4 years' time is not going to stay in a simple deposit account. We are going to invest it. We're going to invest your money. And please, this is very important because nobody has asked about the fund governance. The fund, and very important, this money is not GOK money. Please, this is not GOK money. This money will never see the consolidated fund because this is members' money. That's what I told you. Please, it's not different from a SACCO or chama. So hii si pesa ya serikali because you don't work. Unafanya kazi serikali. So if I deduct you and it goes into that account, what is it doing in serikali? The only thing serikali is doing, first of all, is because I'm the biggest employer. Okay? So, tuko hapo ndani. We are also the ones that set laws and rules. Okay? For this chama. But then, that money will never see, Hinga will never see that money. Because it is sitting with someone who is called a custodial bank. And that money can never be released at, unaona fuel imeenda juu, si tuchukue kidogo huko ili to subsidize. It will never happen. Because this is not GOK money. Please, this is very, very important. Number two, the people who make the investment decision is not Hinga. Today, the fund that is there has a fund manager, Britam. They are the ones who do what is called capital allocation. They decide how much money do we need in long term, how much do we need in the near short term, and how much money do we need next week. and they allocate capital. Number 3, there is an independent administrator. That is the person who is going to be giving you your statement. And because you are saving mandatory, and you will also be saving voluntary, because soon, once you realize this is good gospel, you will, once you overcome the 2,000 and the 1,000, you will save more. Now you need to see your statement. In your statement, today we have a firm of actuaries called Zamara. They're the ones who are administering that fund. And the fund is going to have its own governance, and the regulations are coming out. Probably in the next 2 weeks, you should be able to see that. I thought that is important because it is huko wanasema oh, hiyo pesa itachanganyika, watalipa pending bills nayo. Hawana, hiyo iwezi fanyika. Na Lawrence Nyando. You know, you've asked Hussein to answer this question, but before Hussein answers, I know it's a topical question. Why prioritize housing? There is unemployment. The reason why we are prioritizing housing is because we need to fix unemployment. You know, as I told you, please, we don't need to be Harvard economist to understand how do you create jobs. You must create a consumptive demand. You know, we talk about manufacturing. Manufacturing doesn't just fall from heaven. You must create a demand for that manufacturing. Otherwise, you're manufacturing for what? If you're doing 200,000 a year, that is $1.2 million. That's how you've created a door-making industry. And that door-making industry will hire so many Kenyans. So the question you're asking, prioritize unemployment. And government does not create, the government is not the one that employs largely. We know we're the biggest employer. But the best jobs are the ones that are created by the private sector. That door-making factory is going to be done by you, Boranyando. Please, those are the opportunities that we are asking you to see. I don't know that Hussein wants to add anything on top of that, but I think it's well answered. Amimo, KBC. Yeah, so there is the issue of the statutory deduction, and there is lack of compliance sometimes in government. You know, for example, paying rates. You know, we owe each other a lot of money, all right? Okay? And that's why this thing is called a check-off system. Okay? For government, it's a check-off system. Okay? It is cut at source. Okay? It will be cut at source. And once it's cut at source, it is sent to the fund. So let me tell you what is the implication. Because we, as the biggest employer, it is going to cost government close to 36 billion. New money that is not in the budget now as we speak. If you help us pass this bill that goes into this chama, okay? That money will have to be cut at source, as opposed to wacha hiyo pesa iende kwako alafu tuanze kucollect. Inaitwa check off. Beautiful question about titling. This is really there was an elephant in the room, because so many people have built houses, they can't get titles. We are working tirelessly, and the president himself has committed about sorting out this issue of titling. The digitization is the only way, because there is the issue of sanctity of title, and how do you transact without having kwenda kuona huko kando with all the stories that are there. So please support digitization. We have challenges. Some of it is because there are people who benefit from the manga business that resisting it. But also we have got a lot of people, there are challenges with the system. We have been given targets by which we are going to meet. National Housing Corporation is going to administer the tenant purchase scheme. You all agree they have administered a lot of the tenant purchase scheme. They have got the experience to be able to do that. So there is no conflict between what NHC will do. Graham from Standard. KMRC. KMRC is part of our demand side instrument. Okay? It is helping us with mortgages. All right? Because today, KMRC has a single digit fixed interest rate. So single digit means that it is not more than, it is not 10%, it is below 10%. That's the interest rate you're going to get. And it is long term. So the banks that was giving you 10 now can give you 20 years. Because Kenyan government has borrowed from the World Bank and Africa Development Bank 40 billion shillings at concessional rates. And we have gone and funded banks okay, so that they can then advance that benefit to you. But here is the challenge, or the limitation, not the challenge. The limitation of KMRC, and that's why we need the housing fund, so they're doing separate things, is that majority of you can still not be able to walk in the bank and qualify for a mortgage as defined. Because there is a eligibility criteria. In our estimation, majority of Kenyans at 5% for 30 years, now we are talking. And again, majority of Kenyans understand rent. So we are saying we don't want to give Kenyans, to force a mortgage product on Kenyans on day one, okay? But they understand rent. So give them a product they understand, which is the rent, okay? But you tell them, continue paying rent, but you will own. It's much easier to explain. That's what the housing fund does, as opposed to KMRC. But it plays an important role, and it is increasing the mortgages. But the other challenge that we are addressing with the housing fund that complements KMRC is the housing fund is an off-take fund. Therefore, the off-take fund, it means that the houses need to be built first. So even if we have got that single-digit long-term mortgage at KMRC, if there are no units that are coming up that are affordable, what is going to happen? The money is just staying there. Sindio? So we need to create supply. The housing fund tells the developer, you build, use your money, you finish, I give you, you give me keys, I pay you. When we get this pool of houses that come in, KMRC now will come and compete and say, you have got 10,000 units that you have malizared, and I have got 5,000 clients who want a mortgage. Now the supply addresses KMRC's challenge. Make sense? Thank you. And the last part is about the financiers. You know, financiers are our partners. And actually, one of the things that is being said out there is that we are messing up with the private sector. We allow the private sector. I think today have been able to demonstrate to you that the private sector solution without government intervention it means we only address for 3% of the country. That is the truth. So banks are going to be the biggest beneficiaries of this plan. Why? They're going to be the biggest beneficiaries because now they can finance construction finance. They can focus on construction finance because banks, remember, when you take a project, what's the first thing they assess? Risk, isn't it? The biggest risk is payment. Am I going to get paid? If I give you 1 billion to build units, utanilipa. That's why they say build 30% kwanza ukuje nikupatia pesa kidogo ni kama dawa namna hiyo. Sasa if from July we have 9 billion. Na wewe ni developer, uende kwa bank, uambie, by the way, I have been given a contract kwenda kujenga pale Kehancha in Migori 1,000 units. Hii ni boma yangu, certify is correct. Na iko off-take plan, ndio hii off-take certificate. Wananiambia ni build, as long as I stick to the rules, watanilipa in next year June. What do you think the bank is going to do? It will advance you the money today for you to go build at scale and faster. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much and God bless you. And please walk with us on this journey. And by the way, and for whatever you do, please, because you're mainstream media, we are always available. And call us out, please. We're not saying don't call us out. If you don't understand, please do the same thing. Lakini tafadhali, don't be peddlers of fake news. Na wale jamaa wengine mkuwaidha huko pia mna balance kidogo. Kwa sababu wanatuchapa huko, then ile kazi ngumu tunajaribu. And because this is for the good of the country. All right? Asanteni sana, God bless you.
Thank you, PS. I think that question was answered, Lawrence, by the PS twice. That actually the story about housing is beyond the units or owning the homes. It's about a deliberate decision by the president to intervene in creation of employment. How many? I just read some statistics for you. 3 to 5 direct jobs, about 8 indirect jobs for every housing unit that is going to be done. Again, we are linking our MSMEs. So many of these inputs will be ring-fenced for Juakali, local Juakali artisans. If we are going, as the PS said, there'll be the program for taking 200 units per constituency. We expect the inputs to be made by MSMEs or Jua Kali artisans in that constituency. We are working via PPP. Okay, again, the bigger projects will be via PPP, that is foreign direct investment. And that is why initially I had said, this is all interlinked. And the president campaigned based on a manifesto that is still alive and you can read. And the people voted on the president based on the manifesto. The manifesto itself was a product of a year or more, I think, of the economic forums. You remember them? When the president used to go around the country and talk to people and listen to them. You have seen products of those economic forums and what he was told. There was a big problem with Shylocks. You remember during the campaigns. What did the president do after? So that you understand that these are not things that are coming out of the blue. This is coming from the people. These are the people needs that the president is trying to address. We have the Hustler Fund. He launched it within 100 days, okay, to sort out that problem. We are now talking about a housing problem in the country and how we'll create jobs, create incomes, and even for our TVET institutions. And the TVET graduates will have ready jobs waiting for them, PS. And they actually integrated in this program, the housing program. And that is why I said our priorities, because you talked about why housing as a priority. When I started, I said we have 5 priorities where we want to intervene for Kenyans. Cost of living, creating jobs, improving revenues, enhancing our foreign exchange, and inclusive growth. Look at which will be delivered by 5 pillars. Agriculture and agribusiness, MSMEs, development, housing and settlement, digital superhighway, digital economy, and UHC. All our interventions and what we are doing are actually going to address those priorities. From all that the PS has said here in housing, we are creating employment. That is priority taken care of in terms of jobs. Another priority we are saying we'll improve foreign exchange, FDIs, through the PPP. Another thing we are saying is enterprises for MSMEs. All those is part of the priorities, and all these 5 key pillars that the president is going of the bottom-up economic transformation agenda are going to address these priorities. About health, the president will soon launch the product universal healthcare coverage. It will be a paradigm shift on how healthcare is being delivered in the country, with specific, much emphasis on primary healthcare. But we'll leave that to the president to announce soon. Jane Goin will get you these details, but very quickly, we talked about 36,092 units that the president has launched. You've been seeing him going around launching these housing units. Mukuru, 13,076. Kibera Soweto B, 4,054. Mavoko, affordable housing project, 5,360. Sarai affordable housing project, 6,704. Shauri Moyo A, affordable housing project, 3,848. Ruiru affordable housing, 1,050 units. Homa Bay affordable housing project, 2,000 units. There are more coming, and the PS is working closely, of course, with the president of this. Makongeni will soon be launched, and Thika. And we'll share all these details with you. So finally, I just want to say one more thing. Of course, we will keep engaging you on this matter of housing and the other key pillars of our agenda. Finally, as you may already be aware, the National Holidays Awareness Programs now take place a week before the national holiday itself. So the commemoration of the Madaraka Day will be held in Embu on June 1st, 2023. That is next week, you're all aware, with the overarching theme being MSMEs, cooperatives, trade, and revenue. The sub-theme for the event will focus on empowering enterprises. And on Friday, 26th June, that is the day after tomorrow, President Ruto will launch the Citizen Engagement Program by inaugurating a week-long expo which will bring together 350 exhibitors representing MSMEs, cooperatives, as well as trade and revenue sectors in Embu County. And we hopefully will see you there. Thank you so much for your participation, for all your questions. We hope this will now be reported with accuracy and will be engaging you more and more about our key pillars. Asanteni sana.